friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tammy Ernest and I am a long arm quilter, and here on my channel I like to share customer finishes that I have done, as well as my own personal quilting. Lots of fun things here. I'm glad you're here with me today. So today is January the 3rd. We've had a long weekend. I hope you've been welcomed in the new year in a fun way, and are you ready to get started back into the swing of things? My kids have all gone back to work. Got back to school today with my youngest, and seems like things are back to normal. It's a gloomy day here today. It is super warm. I mean, like, it's in the 60s, which is very unusual for Indiana. We had quite the thunder and lightning last night. Thunderstorm rolled through last night, and I did not sleep the best last night. So I'm going to keep smiling so that you can't see the bags under my eyes, because then they just kind of, you know, get squished with the cheeks there. So I'm just going to keep smiling. But it's a good start to a new week and a new year. I've set lots of goals. I don't know if you're a goal-oriented person, but I sure am, and I've set some high goals for my personal quilting this year, as well as for my business and my family life and my spiritual life. And so I like January. January is my birthday month too, so like, everything changes at once, you know, a year older, and plan all the things for the next year. But today we're going to start out with some customer quilts that I have that will be going home this afternoon. Then we'll move into the Sew Sampler Box for December. I received that right before Christmas, and really haven't had much of a chance even to look at it, so I'll share that with you. And then I'll go into my plans for the new year. So let's get started. So the first one, customer quilt I have hanging on the back of my chair here. Sarah did this one, and Sarah went to a quilt retreat put on by Unraveled Quilt Store down in Spencer, Indiana. And this is usually, I think it's a mystery. So they give you the fabric requirements, and I think even the cutting instructions before you get there. And then once you're there, then you sew all weekend. I've not been to one in person. I've been to a couple of theirs that they did online during 2020, and a lot of fun. But this one was an in-person one that Sarah went to. And let me stand up so you can see this whole thing. I don't know the name of this pattern. All right, so you can see the blocks. Pretty simple. I think they all, let me look at, there are 2 light tones in each one. So you can see the same one in these 3, and then a light tone here, but then the long stripes are all the same. So the same thing in that block. You have 2 different low volume prints, and then the long stripes are just 1 print. And Sarah did it in bright colors, and then she put this perfect border on that just pulls together all of those colors. Pretty owls, and then each corner, each setting triangle is a different color, I believe. Let's look at the bottom of it here. So we have the turquoise and the yellow on the top. We have an orange one and a green one on the bottom. So I'll insert some pictures of the whole quilt. That's a little easier to see in a picture than it is here. So Sarah said it was a really quick put together once she got to the retreat, and she took lots of other projects to work on too. And but a good time to be with a good time to be with friends and to meet new people. And so let me show you the pantograph that we chose for this one. This is called ICAT. I think this is ICAT 1. I know last week we talked about this pantograph, and I showed you that there's also, excuse me, an ICAT 2 that has a couple more echoes in it, a little, you know, even more than this one. The reason we chose this pantograph, I just love this pantograph 1. I think it's a modern look. It adds some movement to a quilt, and because this had a lot of straight lines, I like the little bit of circular feel without it being bubbles or circles or flowers or anything like that. And then also from the owl print, do you see the the same kind of pattern in the owls, in their little wings and just the shape of their body? And that was a little bit of inspiration too. I just love to use this pantograph on this type of look of quilt. I've had several others that I've done. One that was a wedding quilt that I made last year, I think I showed last week, that I used the same ICAP pattern on, and I just love it. I think it adds just a little bit of roundness to a straight line quilt. Let me show you the back. Sarah's backing was a white print with black dots, black, almost like little tiny black crosses or little tiny black flowers. You can see that. And then we did a light gray thread on this, and so even on the back, I almost always use the same color bobbin thread as I do the top thread, because tension is always an issue. It's always something you've got to monitor closely on a long arm, and if that tension is not absolutely perfect and you're using 2 different colors, then you're always going to have a little bit of pinprick points where you're going to see the top thread poking through a little bit here, or you're going to see the bottom thread poking through a little bit here. My personal preference is I like to have the top the preferred color. So in this one, because the quilt was a lot of bright prints, I don't necessarily like to use white, a stark white, because that just, it just stands out. It's going to stand out on these colors. The light gray gives the feel of a neutral, like a white or you know, a cream color, but it just blends much nicer with these types of fabrics, these colors of fabrics, these bright ones. And so a light gray on the front, and then again the same in the back. So that is a light gray bobbin thread. So from a distance, it blends in with the quilt back. Up close, you might notice the quilting more. I don't know that you notice it any more than if it was a white thread on the back. I think it looks perfectly fine. It adds a little bit of dimension and color to a backing without taking away from the design on the front. And I've mentioned this before, my mantra that I always say to clients is, if this is lying on a bed and someone walks into the room, they are going to notice your quilt pattern first and foremost. They see the colors, they see the design, they see the fabrics, that's first. It's not until they get up this close do they see the pantograph. It's a secondary, it's a behind the, it's your secondary look. It's when you get in closer. So your first thing is your workmanship. The second thing is the pantograph and the quilting that we use on it. Okay? So that's a little bit of my logic. Anyway, and the way I approach a quilt. This is really cute. So Sarah's going to do her own binding. And I'll get that back to her this afternoon. And let me drape this over the back of my chair again and grab the second customer quilt that we have today. All right, this one is a quilt done. Marcia did this one. And this is actually a pattern. I know Marcia subscribes to the Sew Sampler the Sew Sampler subscription box that Fat Quarter Shop does. And this is from several months back, but this is the pattern that was included in one of the boxes. This is called the Sweet Honey Quilt Pattern. Sorry for the glare, it is a glossy paper. And well, I'll show you the December box in a few minutes. And like I've explained before, there's always a quilt pattern that comes, and there's always some fabric that's in the box. And so whatever month this was, I didn't go back and look to see what month it was, but this is mine, that came in mine, and I have not done the quilt yet or used this for anything. But this is, let me see, this is a 10-inch stacker, Daisy Fields. I don't know who the designer is. I think that is the fabric line is called Daisy Fields. But this 10-inch stacker came in the box along with this quilt pattern. And Marcia has been very industrious, and she has finished it. And this one is, let me give you the size. This is 38 by 49, so more of a baby size. You know, a small lap quilt if you were, or you could even use it as a wall hanging. It's really cute, each of the squares. Now I do notice, see if you notice. Let me hold this one up. Do you see a difference between this and this? And what I do notice is that Marcia turned, if you'll notice like on here, this fabric is running this way on all of these, so it gives it almost like a honeycomb type feel to that. And Marcia in hers turned hers so that they all point out. So making more of a star pattern. Either way, I mean, I think they're both really cute quilts. I just noticed that when I was quilting it. So really cute fabrics here. If you can see, they're all honeybees, honeycombs. The wording on it says sweet as can be happy. Very springy, perfect for this gloomy January day. A really nice line. Be fun to work with. Then the backing she chose is a yellow. Really cute. Pulls together all of those fabrics from the front. You can see that. And then if you can see right there, I used the diagonal plaid. Diagonal plaid? Yeah, diagonal plaid pantograph. And that was the pantograph of the month back in November. I believe it's November. And I failed to mention that when I had Sarah's quilt up here. So I used that ICAP pantograph on Sarah's quilt, and that is my pantograph of the month for January. So what that means is each month I choose one pantograph to kind of highlight or to feature, and that if you bring a quilt to me in the month of January and ask for that pantograph to be put on your quilt, you will receive 20% off your long arm quilting service for that quilt, or for however many quilts you bring that use that pantograph. So in January, it is the ICAT pantograph, and I'll be putting out some an email and some social media posts about that, just to remind you throughout the month. So if you've been working on something over the holidays and you think that that ICAT pantograph would look really good on that quilt, it would be a good time to get it to me. As long as I have it by the end of January, even if I don't necessarily quilt it, so you can get it in January 31st. But if I have it in my possession by that time and you want that ICAP pantograph, you'll get 20% off of that quilting service. So back to Marcia's quilt. We did the diagonal plaid one on this one. And if I can get in real close, Marcia asked for a light yellow thread. And again, like I said, if this is hanging on a wall, lying on a bed, someone walking in is going to see the design first, the fabrics first. And it's not till they get in closer that they will see the pantograph And then if you can see that that is a yellow thread. Do you see how close I have to get before you even notice that it's that colored thread? But I do think what it does is it makes the pantograph stand out more, especially on the white. You can't tell that it's a yellow thread from here, but you can definitely see the design. So you get in closer and it's yellow, and then on the back. Now, another little tidbit and secret. I did use yellow on the top, and I just said a few minutes ago that I almost always use the same color on the top and the back. I work a lot with pre-wound bobbins. And so I do not have every color in the rainbow of pre-wound bobbins. I have about 6-8 colors that I will use a lot and match. So in this one, even though I used a yellow on the top, I probably used a light cream or an ochre, I don't know how you say that, on the back. Now, because it's on a yellow backing, you can't tell. You might think that it's still a yellow thread. You know, it blends right in. And because the top part has so much white in it, even if a little bit of those pinpricks point through, it is so close. I mean, that yellow thread on the top and the white or creamish that I use on the back is so close. It's so close, you're not going to notice. Where you would notice a big difference is like on this one, if I used gray and white. They're not the same tone, and so you would notice that difference. Or, you know, a red on the top and a white on the back. You would definitely see those pinpricks. In this one, the back is a busy yellow, so even if a little bit of that yellow from the top points through, you're never going to see it. On the top, it's mostly white, so Marcia asked for the yellow thread on the top, and even if I use a light cream on the back, you're not going to see that pop through on the front because those tones of the top thread and the bobbin thread are so close, so close. So really cute quilt. This will be going back this afternoon, and Marcia will be doing her own binding as well. And that leads me right into the fact that you could get your own Sew Sampler box as well. This is a once-a-month subscription that comes from the Fat Quarter Shop, and every month it comes with a pattern and fabric, some little notions, and let me show you December's box. Like I said, this came right before Christmas, so here's how it comes in a box like this. And it came right before Christmas. I did open it up and look at it briefly, but I've not spent a lot of time looking through it. So each month when you open the box, on the top it has a little card here. This one's theme is Joy in the Journey. So a very Christmassy, you know, the turquoise, red, white, and this is December 2022. On the back, there's always a coupon code, and I wish I would have remembered this because I just placed an order yesterday with Fat Quarter Shop, and I could have used the coupon code. So don't forget about the coupon code when you get it. Then inside the box, you have this little card, and this explains everything that's in the box, and shows everything that you have, and gives a little more, oh, that's so cute. Gives a little more information about each of the products that is in the box. So let's start off with what I was saying was so cute. Was this tiny little, let me take it out of the package. This is a little scissors charm. So you could put this on, a keychain. It has the little clasp. Yeah, you can see that. So that little, you know, the little clasp, and then it's a little scissors. Aren't those adorable? Now, I do a lot of cross stitch, like I've mentioned before, so I will probably use this on one of my my thread rings, or I'll use it on the zipper pull or something like this of one of my project bags. But you could definitely, you could put this on a little charm, you know, on a necklace, on a bracelet. You could put this on your key ring. Really cute. So that's, it says Fisherman's Bend. Oh, no. That's a bonus item, it says, is that it is by Ruby Star. Ruby Star Society enamel zipper pull. Really cute, really cute. All right, so the fabric this month is Fisherman's Bend Violet Craft. This is a package of charm squares. Actually, it's 2 packages, if you can see. They've put them together in one bundle. Let me just open that so we can see inside there. Get an up-close look at what these fabrics are. So, by the name, Fisherman's Bend, you would assume, like I can tell, that there are fish in it. So the colorway is a violet and a teal and a blue and yellow. The top one is. So birds in an aqua color. Can you see that? Sorry for the glare there. So, I'm not doing a very good job of this. So some birds that are in an aqua, then you have some yellow lines. Some butterflies and bees. That's more of a, almost a purplish color. And then you have the fish again in a pink with a blue, and then you have this colorway of that one. So, and then you have the same pattern, but this one has more of the orangey, not even an orange, what would you call that color? A melon, almost a melon, and an olive. So interesting. So then that one in the blue. So 2 charm packets, and then the quilt pattern that they have that goes with that is called Trailblazer, 54 by 54. Let me show you the back because you can get a better look at what the it almost looks like a fish, doesn't it? The fish with the fins out to the side. So cute. It looks like the pattern, mostly you're using the squares and then making some half square triangles. It says all you need is 2 yards of backing and then a binding fabric. No, 2 yards of background fabric for the white and then a binding fabric as well. So 54 by 54 might be a cute little baby quilt that you could make up, not knowing the gender. Have that one ready for the next baby shower you're invited to. Have that one. All right, let's show the next thing in the box. There is a magnetic touch knife, often called the handiest little knife in the world. Small enough to fit into your project bag or a sewing drawer, and features a secure blade lock, small and sleek. So it comes in green or white. Mine came in the green color. Let me hold it the right way. So almost like a, what am I? Actually, it's retractable, so it doesn't even stay out. So you have to hold it, and then it retracts back in as soon as I let go of it. So handy. Let's keep that in my sewing room. Who knows what I'll find to use that for. And then, oh, this is a fun one. This is a magnetic pin keep. Take this out of the box. I have never had a magnetic pin keeper. All right. Says Fat Quarter Shop. It's in the teal color. Let me read about this, see if there's anything. Magnetic Pin Caddy, attractive in more ways than one. Fitted with a strong magnet. It's cute and useful to keep your pins in check next to your sewing table. And it also features a compartment for storing pins. That's what I wondered, what this one was underneath. How does that open? Oh. So that slides out, comes out completely. It's got a lid on the top too, and then it opens up. So I wondered if it was more like a drawer that you would just slide out, but it's actually a whole compartment that slides out. and then you slide it back in the little grooves so it can keep your pins. This would be really nice to take on a quilt retreat because you could put your pins in here to travel and then have them here on the top. You're not going to lose any out, you know, like I have a little pin cushion that I take, but if that gets bumped or knocked, you know, around, then those little pins come out. Where this one, you can have the pins stored underneath and then use it while you're out there. Really like that one. That'll be fun to use. Then another thing that came in here are some iron-on labels. So Sassy iron-on labels for quilting, sewing projects, and more. So again, a glossy cover, so I apologize for that. These kind of remind me of the old applique that our grandmothers would do. Really cute. So a few of these I like. I mean, I like that one. Obviously, these are iron-on, so they're all going to be backwards. Handmade, that one says. Some of them I don't quite like the sayings on it. I'm not a tongue-in-cheek kind of person. I'm not a sarcastic type of person, so some of them I don't know that I'll use, but I could definitely use the if I don't use the words, I could definitely use the designs. Doesn't that remind you of my great-grandma? How she would do those. So yeah, here's the baby. So some iron-on labels that's included in there. Then the final thing, I believe the final thing that's included in the box is a block for a quilt-along. So this year, actually, I think this ran from June or July, so it doesn't run calendar year to calendar year. It starts somewhere in the middle of the year and runs over the holiday, and we'll finish this up, I believe, in April, so maybe it started in May, or maybe we'll finish it in May. I can't remember. Anyway, this is block number 9, if you want to count back and figure out when we finish this. So I've been keeping you up to date on all of them that I've been doing, and I am up to date on this one. So this is called the Bliss Quilt Along. This is by Fig Tree and Company. This is our 9th block, and I did do this block yesterday so that I could show you. This is a basket block, and like I've mentioned before, you can buy the fabric bundle that goes with the actual quilt along. I'm just using ones I had on hand. These are Fig Tree fabrics, but they're ones that I had on hand. So very simple block. It looks much more complicated than it actually is. The instructions just call it block number 9. But I'm pretty sure this is a standard basket block. So I pulled out my handy dandy, the Quilt ID book. This was so nice. I had a client give me this over the summertime. She stopped by and she said, I'm never going to use this, but I thought you might like it. And I do. It's really fun. All it is just helps you identify different quilt blocks. And so I flipped through until I found, there, you see that right there? That one says, calls it a fruit basket or fruit basket. So you can see the kind of the difference. This one is a solid center where this one's blocks. Then it calls it another fruit basket, and then over on the other page, all of these are different versions of baskets, and each one just a tad bit different. So it's very interesting to look at and see how you have a grape basket, a May basket, another grape basket, a flower basket, a fruit basket, all different kinds, and each one's just a tad bit different. So if I had to do this one, so let me show you what a difference might be. Where this one has a different fabric in here. Where some of these blocks, they may have the same background fabric in here, or they may have this part as the same background fabric, the whole thing. But on this quilt, this block, what she did is half square triangles here and here, and then half square triangle here with the green so that you get the basket part of it. Half square triangles here, very quick, come together, and then a large half square triangle here. So this is block number 9. I didn't bring all my other blocks to show you this time because I've done that before. But one thing I realized when I was making this one yesterday is there are several there was the red and white block. There was one left over, and there was a green and white one that was left over. And I think there was another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. So there's 7 half square triangle blocks here, but you make 8 when you're making it. So there's one left over, and I thought, I want to keep all these orphan blocks, is what I would call them, orphan pieces left over from something like this, and put them all together in a quilt for this year. Do you have that when you're making quilts, that you'll have little, a block that I've actually made? I made a half square triangle block that I'm not going to use, and to keep those all together in a little caddy or something, and at the end of the year put them together. See what I can come up with. That might be fun. That might be fun. So that is the Bliss Quilt Along. And today I wanted to talk about my projects or my plans for 2023. And that is one of the plans that I have. So let me clean up my spot here a little bit and show you. So on my list of quilts for 2023 will be this Bliss Quilt Along, to finish that up. And like I said, I believe it finishes up in April or May, and then they'll give us the setting instructions. And so that is one quilt that I will be finishing this year. Another one that I'll be starting here, you know my love for Lori Holt. I've mentioned that several times. So in January, Fat Quarter Shop and Lori Holt are starting this sew along. This is the So Scrappy Spools pattern. This, if you pre-ordered her Scrappiness is Happiness book, then you receive this pattern from Fat Quarter Shop, their publishing company. It's So Emma. You received that. If not, you can purchase it on Fat Quarter Shop. This is actually one of the things that I purchased yesterday. I believe their actual physical patterns are sold out. You may have to wait a little bit if you're wanting one of those, but you can always do the PDF and print it out yourself. So this sew along begins January 12th, so next week. Basically, what it is you're taking, I think these are some of the same blocks from her Scrappiness is Happiness. No, maybe not. I don't know for sure. I haven't looked at it. Some of them are similar, but you're making the spools, but in each one of the spools, so here's a couple different American flag blocks. Oh, another third one down there. Excuse me. Some stripes. You got a tulip block, a pinwheel, a 4-patch, different ones. This is almost like her plaid block that you have. I just thought this was fun. I love spools. I have a little jar. Anytime I can find wooden spools, I keep them. I don't use the thread that's left on them. If I find them when I'm antiquing, I'll keep them inside of a mason jar, and I have those sitting on a dresser outside my sewing room. I love spools, especially old wooden ones. So I thought this would be a fun quilt along. Obviously, I'm just going to use stuff from my stash. I do need, for the spools themselves, they use a brown. I'll probably just see what's in my stash. It doesn't even have to be all the same brown, I don't think. It could be, I mean, that kind of pulls the quilt together, but it could be a scrappy browns that I could use. And then you notice she does little cornerstones in between each one of the spools that's turned different directions. So that's one of my projects for 2023. This is an all-year quilt along, begins in January, so you're making, I believe you're making one type of block each month, but you may be making several of them, like I said. So I plan on starting that in January. And I also, Camille Roskelley came out with a spool pattern too, and I like this one too. I like the colorway. I just love the colorway. Now, in looking at the directions, this is very, 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 very similar to Lori Holt's one. Camille is using charm packs. So like the fish charm pack that I just showed you a few minutes ago, that's what's the middle of each one of these. And then her spools are done in a blue. I really like that. So I'm going to see if I have a couple charm packs up in my sewing room that would look good. If not, I keep a 5-inch square bin full of scraps that I could very easily, this wouldn't take any time at all. Actually, this could be one of those projects that I have sitting next to my sewing table and just, stitch it up as I'm working on something else. But I like the spools. I know that's 2 spool quilts, but I like them. I like the Lori Holt one just because of the differences in the, each block is a little different, and I like the colorway of this one. I probably didn't need to buy both patterns, but I want to support both of them. So that's another plan for 2023. I did want to show you something that I do up in my sewing room. I have this tin. This is just an enamel bowl that I found at a quilt store. I needed I needed some little container on my cutting table that I could just throw my scraps in as I'm cutting. I have, obviously I have a waste basket, but it's across the room a little bit. So I found this tin, and I just thought it was adorable. So I have this sitting on my cutting table. Like yesterday when I was working on that, this May basket, you can see just my little scraps that I cut from that. The Alpine quilt that I'm working on, I didn't bring that today, but I have all the house blocks done, and I have 4 of the 10 snowflake blocks done, so hopefully next week I'll have that one, at least all the blocks done, maybe together. We'll see how far I get. But speaking of that, here are some scraps from cutting those fabrics, you can see, and I'll just keep this right here on my sewing table. Then what I have done this past year, not the entire year, probably the last 4 or 5 months, when this gets full, I transfer the ones that are in that into a big jar that I have. So this is a big pickle jar. I've covered the top just with some black and white check. Actually, you'll recognize that from that camper quilt last week. That's what that is. And this is just full of, it's just little scraps, but it's all memories. So this is little pieces from the pumpkin quilt that I did. Down in here I can see some Alpine. So it wasn't this one. This is when I was doing that Christmas tree quilt. I don't want to dump all this out, but down at the bottom I can see some of the blue that I did when I made that Arizona table runner from our vacation. Here you can see some of the black and white gingham or check that I used on the top. So when I filled up this bowl, then I just dump them into here and squish it down. And this is just a jar full of memories. And then you notice on the outside, I also keep, not all, but I keep the selvage from different quilts that I do. Usually I keep them if I like them for some reason. So here is Spring Chicken. This was on the graduation quilt that we gave to a friend of ours that I showed last week. And I just like, it's got the little chickens in the different colors. Sometimes designers will put cute little sayings on them. So this one up here is a Primitive Gatherings, and it says, "How quiet the forest would be if only the best birds sing." So just little sayings they have. Or, Prairie Dreams by Kansas Troubles. Or this one says, "Let your heart be light." That's your Merry Little Christmas designs from Bonnie and Camille. So this is a Kansas Trouble ones. This one is a Little House on the Prairie. Who doesn't love a Little House on the Prairie by Andover? So just, this one says Threads of Time. That was a backing I used for something. So if I like the selvage that's I'm cutting off, if I like the colors or if I like the little sayings, then I'll just drop that in a jar too. And then at the end of the year, I kind of arrange them the way I want. I would like somehow, I'm thinking maybe I should stitch 2022 on the top of this, or somehow mark it that it's 2022. And then I'll just set this on a shelf, maybe up there, or in my sewing room. So I've already started. I'm thinking, I like this because I can do the selvages on here and they're nice and round on this pickle jar. I do like mason jars, the great big mason jars, but I don't know that I could do the selvages on those because that, obviously you're going to have the ball design or some design on there. So pickle jar works pretty well. I don't like pickles personally, so I'm going to have to buy pickles for my family and then use the jar when I'm done. But that's just a fun way to remember projects that you've done. I know we write them down in a book, but it's sometimes fun just to, we're tactile people. We like those, to feel those fabrics and to touch them and to see them and to pull them out and play with them. So I've already started my container for this year. And another thing I'm going to do with my scraps this year. This is another project that I'm working on. This is a free pattern by Fat Quarter Shop called Brick House. And it says 2022 scrap quilt. I'm just now starting it, and my plan for this is I am going to take the scraps from each quilt that I make this year and make a house block. So right now I'm working on that Alpine quilt by Camille Roskelley. When I finish, I'm going to use those fabrics to make one house block. So it'll be the greens and the grays and the white that I have. And then for each quilt that I work on, I'm going to make one of these house blocks. And then at the end of the year, put them all together, and I'll have a 2023 neighborhood of all the quilts that I worked on that year. Won't that be fun? I'm super excited about that. These blocks finish at 12 by 13. So in this quilt, they show 4 by 4, they show 16. And that ends up to be a 62 by 66. I could do a double-sided quilt if I have too many, or I can make some pillows from them. I don't know. We'll see how many quilts I get done in 2023. But I just thought that would be a fun way to do that for the year. So that's another one of my projects. All right. So I have the So Scrappy Spools. I know the other thing I was going to say, have you seen Calico Garden by Lori Holt? Quilt Along starts in January as well, and that is definitely one that I want to work on. I showed you last week my the So Happy one that I did. That's not So Happy. What's it called? My Happy Place quilt that I finished that was Lori Holt's pattern. And so Calico Garden, gardening is something that I really enjoy as well, and so it's right up my alley. So I have ordered my kit, and that should be here soon. The Be Prepared post comes out next Monday, January the 9th, so you might want to follow Lori Holt on her blog to get that if you're wanting to join in that Quilt Along. And I believe the Quilt Along starts the end of January, and if I heard right, she said that it would be like, I want to say 16 or 19 weeks long, so it'll be many months. What's that, 4 or 5 months? So at a little slower pace. That's a big quilt, a lot of applique. So if you're not into applique, it's not something that you would enjoy. You're using her So Simple shapes, but I think that'll be a fun Quilt Along. A couple other projects that I have planned for 2023. I'm wanting to finish something that I started. I kind of have a theme here, the spools and then the houses. I hung up this antique schoolhouse quilt that I have. I love this. Actually, I think my husband bought me this one. But I hung that up, blues and pinks and some reds there, because I just feel like I have a theme going on here with the spools and then with houses. Because I have several the brick house one that I just showed you that I'm going to be working on, and then this one by Coriander Quilts by Corey Yoder. I started this one this past year. Our Quilt Guild did a staycation where we had just for a day, we all got together and sewed, and I started this project then. I did not realize how big these houses are. But this quilt ends up being 74 by 95. And I have a couple of the houses done. I'm doing this all in Corey Yoder fabric. So if you remember last week, I showed you the Pot Blossom quilt that I did, and I did it all in Corey Yoder fabrics. I'm using the scraps from those, plus some extras that I had, and making these house blocks. So this is all Corey Yoder fabric. And these are big. These are big. What is that? Measuring. That's a 15 by 15. It's a big size block. But the roof is a pretty big piece. It goes together fast. And what I like is that picket fence. And that's actually what the pattern is called, Picket Fence Cottages. I like how you have the picket fence a little bit on one, a little bit, but when you join them, it looks like the picket fence. I love picket fence. I love that. So there's one. Each one of mine is different. I have 2 finished, but all of the pieces are cut for all of them. So the roof is the same on that one. This one, I have the pink house with the red door, but the green roof. Now here, I do have a green roof, but I have a green door. and a red house. So really cute. So I have all the pieces. Another one of my tins. This is a smaller one. These are the smaller houses, house obviously, little pieces that are like pieces for the fence. Oops, sorry about that. Pieces for the fence is what I have. So when I went to the staycation, I put all of my pieces to save my time once I got there. I didn't want to have to figure it all out once I got there. So what I did is I stacked up my pieces on design boards, and then I just rubber banded them all together. So here's all the pieces that I need. Actually, this is 1, 2, and I'm missing the pieces for that one. This is at least 2. Some of them fell out here, I think. Okay, let me show you this one. So here's 1 house, 2, and 3. So I could have laid it all completely out on each design board. I didn't have enough to do that, so I kind of stacked the pieces that I need on different ones. So here's 3 more there and 3 there, and I just stacked them all up, rubber banded them, and then that's how I took them to the to our staycation. And then I rubber banded them and took them like that, and all the pieces stayed still. So I have everything cut, 2 of the houses together. So this one should, if I just spent some time, that's on my whip list. Needs to be done in 2023. So cute, so cute. I'm excited to finish that one. And that one's just for me, just for me. I had another one of Coriander's patterns that is a house one too. Let me show you this one. Take it out of the package. This is called Friendly Neighbor. What she did with this one, once I opened this up and looked at it, so it's a different, you know, these are cottages, different house than this one. When I opened this up and looked at it, what I realized is that she has a panel printed. It's called the Apricot and Ash panel, and she is cutting the that panel apart and is using that as the block of each one of these houses. Isn't that cute? So it looks like you have a quilt hanging on the side of each house. I thought that was adorable. Now, I don't have that pattern. I don't have any of these fabrics. So I may improvise. I may see if I have a panel that I could use, or I may, if I see her panel, I may do that, because I think that's a really cute. This gives off to me a much, because of the colorways, it gives much more of a fall feel to me, where this one gives much more of a spring feel. So I could have a different house quilt out every month of the year. Or every season of the year, I guess. So this would be a fun one to do for 2023 as well. And another one, I have big plans. I have big plans. I picked up this book called Quilt Club, and this is actually a book where they suggest doing quilt swaps. That is one thing I'm doing. Our Quilt Guild is doing a Wonky Stars block swap, and I need to have those blocks done by 3rd week of January, and we're going to swap those. So I'll show those another time. But that is another quilt that that's in the works for 2023. But I picked up this book. This was a while back. Martingale was having their $8 book sale. I forget if this was over Black Friday or if it was at least before Christmas, I know. And I picked up this block because I want to do this one quilt. Not that I won't do the others, but there was one in here. This is meant for block swaps, like I said, but there was this one quilt that caught my eye that, like, I want to do that one. Isn't that cute? So this is Barnes. The name of it is called Plaid Barn. And so this would go right along with my theme if I had a different house quilt out for each season. So I have spring, I have fall. This would be my winter one. And this is actually Barnes, but I think we could count that as a house quilt. I love this. I think this is so cute. This one, the way it's written is, it's only 43 by 43. That's not a big enough. I could use that as a wall hanging. Actually, wouldn't that look cute hanging up there? But I may have to do it as a bigger quilt too. So let me see. So if you were doing this with friends, you would each make one barn block and then you would exchange it. Let me see how big the barn block ends up being. 9.5 inches. So I could make several and just make more and put them, because that's not bad. And I just think that's so cute. So cute. Look at it. Really cute. I have a lot of fabrics that I could use for that color. You wouldn't need much of each one. I just love it. So that's got to be in my plans for 2023. So if I don't put this one out till winter, I've got a while before I would need to have it done, right? Because it wouldn't be right now. I've got enough going on right now. But want to do that one. And then I have one more that I wanted to show you. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that I found this cute fabric at the quilt store. This sheep fabric. Well, this week I came upon the pattern. I told you I couldn't find the pattern when I wanted to show it to you. Oh, look. I just found some of my orphan blocks. Those are the ones I was talking about. I'll keep those in something and use them. Anyway, I digress. I found the pattern, the Coriander pattern that I bought that fabric for. This one is called Woolly Stars. Woolly Stars? Yep. I think this is so cute. Now, if you've seen my logo for my quilting business, I used that star as the logo for my quilting business. So when I saw this pattern, I thought, I think that is adorable. So, and this, when I saw this fabric at the quilt store, that's why I picked it up. This has got to be the backing fabric. So 4 yards of backing, and I think that's what I got. I think that's exactly what I asked for, was 4 yards. I just thought this was the cutest. So that's another in my works for 2023. So how many is that? I have the Bliss quilt along, I have the Wonky Stars, the Spools, Camille Spools, I have the Calico Garden, and I have the Cottages, and the Barn, and the Woolly Stars. Okay, I'm already up to 8, and it's January 3rd. I've got a lot to get going. And I'm working on my Alpine quilt, like I mentioned. But that one will be done shortly and hopefully out for display. So fun. I love the plans. It's so fun to make the plans and then put it on the calendar and to work through them. And I am so excited for the things I have planned for this year and the quilts. I hope you'll let me know any of these that you're joining in on. Are you joining any of these quilt-alongs? There's another one. There's another Pen and Paper is doing a quilt-along. Have you seen her new book quilt? It is so cute. It starts here. I think it starts next week too. I don't think I'll join in the quilt-along, but that may be one that I pick up throughout the year. I just think that's adorable. I showed it to my girls the other day, and I'm like, here's another book quilt we can do. And they like that one too. That one doesn't have titles. I guess you could put titles on it too. But it's an adorable quilt. I really like that one. So I may have to join in. Not join in the quilt along, but put that one on my list, at least on my want to do list, right? So hope you'll share with me what you're wanting to work on for 2023. I hope you're making big plans. It doesn't have to, you don't have to go out and buy a lot of fabric. You've got a lot in your stash. Just pick up one of these patterns or the free block pattern that the house block pattern that Fat Quarter Shop has, and make your own neighborhood there. Make a scrappy quilt. You can do it. And just use what you have. Don't have to be a lot of money, but spend your time and put the work in, and so that you have stuff to pass down. That those homemade gifts are the best, and our families will appreciate it later down the line. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will see you back here next week.